Alene had always believed that hard work would pay off eventually, so she worked, and worked, and worked. By day, she answered phones at a dull office with flickering lights and lukewarm coffee. By night, she wiped down sticky cafe tables, smiled at rude customers, and washed dishes until her fingers wrinkled like raisins. Her feet were always sore, her back always ached, and her dreams? They stayed neatly folded in the back of her mind, just like the bills she stacked beside her bed. But she had a goal, the apartment. Not just any apartment, but the one her parents had promised her years ago. They said, "It's yours, Alene, if you make the payments. We'll put it in your name one day." That one day kept her going through every sleepless night, every missed birthday, every time she couldn't afford a vacation or even a real dinner. She didn't party, she didn't complain. She just kept paying, quietly, relentlessly, faithfully, because she thought love meant giving. And maybe, just maybe, they'd love her back in the end. Alene never asked for much. She didn't dream of riches, fame, or applause. All she ever wanted was this: to be seen, to be valued, to be loved not for what she could give, but for who she was. But growing up in her family, love came with conditions. Be useful, be silent, don't complain, smile, always help even when it hurts, and above all, put family first. So she did. When Colette got sick, Alene stayed up all night making soup and changing cold towels. When their parents struggled with bills, Alene worked extra shifts and slid envelopes of cash under their door. She gave and gave until giving became her identity. Somewhere along the way, Alene confused love with sacrifice. She believed, if I give enough, they'll love me back. If I become essential, I'll become irreplaceable. But here's the truth. Alene never dared to say out loud. She was replaceable. And she wasn't being loved. She was being used. It was just another Tuesday. Alene had picked up a carton of eggs, a loaf of bread, and 2 tomatoes, bare minimum for dinner. Her shift at the cafe had drained her. Her feet dragged beneath her as she climbed the familiar stairs to her parents' apartment. Home. Or, at least, that's what it used to feel like. She opened the door expecting the usual, her father watching TV, her mother humming in the kitchen, maybe even a leftover cup of tea still warm on the counter. But that night, everything was off. There was no smell of food, no background noise, no laughter, just silence. A thick, unnatural silence that settled on her chest like a weight. In the kitchen, her parents sat stiffly at the table. Her sister Colette and Colette's husband Antoine were there too, side by side. Their expressions blank, unreadable. Alene blinked. "Hey, what's going on?" No one answered right away. Elise, her mother, gave her a strained smile, but her eyes didn't smile with her. Pierre, her father, avoided her gaze entirely. Then Elise said the words that would change everything. "Alene, we need to talk." Alene set her grocery bag down slowly, the tension crawling up her spine. "Okay," she said carefully. "What is it?" Her father looked down at the table, jaw clenched. Her mother reached for her hand, but Alene pulled back instinctively. That's when Elise spoke. "We've decided. The apartment will go to Colette and Antoine. They need it more." Silence. For a second, Alene thought she'd misheard. Her ears rang like her body was trying to block the words. "What?" she whispered. Pierre cleared his throat. "They're a family now. They need space. You're hardly here anyway, and—" "And what?" Alene interrupted, her voice trembling. "I paid for this place. Every month. For years. You helped." "Yes," Elise began. "I didn't help," Alene snapped. "I paid. I worked double shifts. I missed birthdays. I skipped life for this apartment." Her hands shook. Her chest heaved. "You promised me," she said through clenched teeth. "You looked me in the eye and said this would be mine one day." Colette stayed silent. Antoine kept staring at the floor like a coward. Alene looked around the room she helped furnish, paint, keep clean. And now, she wasn't even welcome. She wasn't a daughter. She was an inconvenience. Her voice cracked. You gave away my home. Tears blurred her vision as she turned away. The people she trusted most had just stabbed her in the back. Alene didn't scream. She didn't argue. She didn't even slam the door. She just walked to her room. Her hands trembled as she reached for her suitcase. The old one, the one she'd used during college when she still believed life would be fair. She opened drawers, pulled clothes, folded them like a robot. Each item she touched carried a memory. The sweater she wore on her first day at the cafe, the mug she bought herself after her first full paycheck, the pillowcase with tiny sunflowers, her favorite. She packed in silence, not because she had nothing to say, but because nothing she said would matter now. Her room, once warm, safe, hers, felt foreign, cold. And all the things she thought she owned, they now felt like borrowed items in a stranger's house. She looked around, tears welling again. This wasn't just about losing space. It was about being erased. Alene didn't say goodbye. She didn't want to hear more apologies that meant nothing. Didn't want another hollow look, another lie dressed as family love. She walked out the door with one suitcase and a purse full of receipts and pain. The night was colder than she expected. The wind bit at her cheeks, but the cold didn't come from the air. It came from everything she had just lost. She walked, past shops closing up, past streetlights buzzing, past couples laughing. She didn't know where she was going. She just knew she couldn't go back. Every step was heavier than the last, not from the weight of her bag, but the weight of knowing. She had given everything, and they had thrown her away. Hours passed. Her legs gave out. She collapsed onto a wooden bench at a bus stop, head in her hands. She didn't cry, not this time. She just sat there, silent, still, forgotten, like a ghost in the city she helped build. Alene didn't remember falling. One moment she was walking, the next her knees buckled. A sharp, stabbing pain twisted through her lower abdomen. She gasped. Her vision blurred. The streetlights above her spun like stars caught in a blender. People passed, some glanced. No one stopped. She reached out. No one took her hand. Her body gave out, collapsing onto the sidewalk like a rag doll. Hard pavement, cold wind, hot tears. Then everything went black. Alene. The voice cut through the darkness. Familiar, concerned. She stirred. Eyes fluttered open to a blurry face kneeling beside her. Alene, it's me, Damien. What happened? Are you hurt? Her lips moved, but no words came. Only a soft, broken whisper. I didn't have anywhere to go. Damien didn't ask questions at first. He didn't demand explanations. He didn't lecture her. He didn't even look shocked to find her crumpled on a city sidewalk. He just acted, wrapped his coat around her, lifted her gently, flagged down a taxi. Back at his small apartment, he helped her sit on a faded couch. The room was nothing fancy, tiny, a bit cluttered, but safe. He made tea, real tea, with honey. As it steeped, the room filled with warmth. Not just from the kettle, but from him. Damien sat beside her quiet. No pressure, no questions, just presence. That kind of kindness. Alene didn't know what to do with it. Her whole life had taught her that love came with strings. But Damien's care, it asked for nothing in return. No one had ever made her tea just to comfort her. No one had ever looked at her like she didn't have to earn a place to exist. In that moment, something inside her cracked, and through it, the smallest light slipped in. Damien didn't offer pity. He offered purpose. 3 days after she collapsed, he asked her over breakfast, "Do you want a job?" Alene blinked. "At your shop?" He nodded. "It's tough. Grease engines, long hours. But the pay's decent. You'll learn fast." She hesitated. She'd spent her life in offices behind keyboards, wearing clean clothes and perfect smiles, not in garages. Not with cracked nails and oil-stained hands. But what had all that polish ever earned her? So she said yes. The first week was brutal. She dropped tools, misread labels, got oil in her hair, bruises on her knees, and calluses she never thought she'd carry. But Damien was patient. He showed her how to hold a wrench, how to listen to an engine, how to use strength without force. And with each bolt tightened, with each tire lifted, Alene began to rebuild herself. Not the version that begged to be seen, but the version that didn't need anyone's permission to exist. They didn't fall in love all at once. It wasn't fireworks or grand gestures. It was something quieter and deeper. Damien made her laugh again. He noticed when she skipped lunch. He listened when she talked about things no one else cared to remember. And Alene, she felt safe, really safe, for the first time in years. One evening, as they cleaned up the garage grease under their nails and tired smiles on their faces, Damien looked at her and said, "You ever think about starting something of your own?" She raised an eyebrow. "Like what?" He hesitated, then smiled. "That birthday cake you brought to the office years ago, I still remember the taste. You could bake circles around anyone. I'm serious. What if we opened a cafe?" Alene laughed at first, then paused. The idea wrapped around her gently like a warm blanket, a place of her own, no more survival mode, no more being useful for someone else's dream, just hers. A space filled with soft music, fresh pastries, and the smell of coffee. A space that felt like healing. She looked at Damien, his eyes steady, kind, waiting. And for the first time since she was cast out of her own home, Alene whispered, "Let's do it." The cafe was warm that night. Romantic glowed with soft lights and smelled of vanilla and roasted beans. Alene was wiping down tables, her apron dusted with flour, when her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She almost ignored it. But something, maybe instinct, maybe unfinished business, made her answer. "Hello?" Silence. Then her mother's voice, worn, shaky, unfamiliar. "Alene, it's Mom." Alene froze. It had been a year, 12 whole months of silence, healing boundaries. Her heart jumped, but her voice stayed calm. "What's going on?" Elisa's words came in a rush. Anton had taken a massive loan. He used the apartment as collateral without telling anyone. He defaulted. The bank took everything. Now they were homeless. Elise, Pierre, Colette, and even Anton, all without a roof. "We just need help, temporarily," Elise begged. "Just until we figure things out, please." Alene's chest tightened. She looked around the cafe. Every brick, every chair, every recipe, she had built it. Without them. Now they wanted a piece of it. Alene sat at the counter, the cafe empty now, her phone resting like a stone beside her. Damien poured her a cup of tea and slid it toward her without a word. She didn't touch it. Her thoughts were louder than any noise. Her family, her blood, was homeless. Part of her still ached to help. The part that remembered birthdays and bedtime stories and soup when she was sick. But there was another voice now, louder, stronger, the voice she'd been silencing her whole life. "They threw you away," it said, "and now they want a place in what you built without them." Damien broke the silence. His voice was calm, steady, the voice of someone who had seen her fall and helped her rise. "You don't owe them anything, Alene. They made their choices. You don't have to burn your peace to put out their fire." Her eyes filled with tears, but they didn't fall. She wasn't crying. She was deciding. That night, she dialed her mother back. Her hand didn't shake. "Mom," she said quietly, "I forgive you, but I won't sacrifice everything I've built. Not again." Elise begged, pled, cried, but Elene's voice didn't waver. "You chose Colette once. You'll have to choose your own path now. I am done choosing pain." She hung up. and for the first time in her life, she felt free. The smell of fresh croissants filled the air. Soft jazz played in the background. And Alene, she was smiling. Not the polite, practiced smile she used to wear, but the kind that started in the heart and couldn't help but reach the eyes. Romantique was alive. Mornings were busy, lines curling out the door. People came for the pastries, sure, but they stayed for something else, something harder to name. Maybe it was the warmth. Maybe it was the way Alene remembered their names. Maybe it was the feeling that this place had soul. She moved behind the counter with quiet grace, pouring lattes, sliding plates, laughing with customers like they were old friends. Damien worked nearby, sleeves rolled up, smiling at her between orders. No spotlight, no applause, but every second felt like triumph. Because this cafe, this piece, this version of her life, she built it. No one gave it to her. No one could take it away. And every morning as the door chimed open and the scent of vanilla wrapped around her shoulders, Alene breathed deep and thought, this is what I was meant for. Alene didn't avoid the call this time. She knew it would come. One last try. One final ask. Elise's voice cracked on the line. She sounded tired. Older, worn down, not just by life, but by choices she couldn't undo. "We miss you, Alene," she whispered. "I was wrong about everything. Please, let us come back into your life." Alene listened, eyes fixed on the quiet cafe outside. Cars passed, a couple laughed nearby, the world kept spinning. And she was still. Then, with a breath as soft as morning light, she said, "I forgive you, Mom, but I won't give you my life again. No anger, no blame, just truth. You chose your path, I've chosen mine, and this piece I've built, I'm not handing it over." Elise sobbed on the other end. Alene didn't hang up right away. She waited. Let the silence say what words never could. Then finally, with no bitterness in her heart, she said, "Goodbye, Mom." And this time, she meant it. Morning light filtered through the cafe window, casting golden streaks across the counter. Alene stood behind it, watching the world outside move gently like waves on a calm sea. Damien handed her a warm croissant, kissed her cheek, and went back to the register. She smiled. Then she turned, and for a moment, she looked. At him, at the cafe, at the shelves of her own recipe books lined up with care, at the mirror near the espresso machine, and at herself. Gone were the shadows in her eyes. Gone was the woman who waited for permission to matter. What stood there now was someone free. Not because life got easier, not because others changed, but because she did. She had chosen herself. Not in spite of love, but because of it. Because real love includes your own reflection. Alene touched the edge of the counter she built, breathed in the scent of vanilla and hope, and softly, almost like a promise to herself, she whispered, "I gave my life to others once. Now I'm giving it back to me." Sometimes the deepest kind of betrayal doesn't come from strangers. It comes from the ones we love most. And when that happens, we face a choice: to keep giving until there's nothing left of us, or to gently step away and choose ourselves. Choosing yourself isn't selfish. It's survival. It's healing. It's the beginning of becoming who you were always meant to be. Because peace is not found in pleasing everyone. It's found in honoring the one person you've overlooked for too long, yourself. If Alene's story touched something in you, if you've ever felt unseen, unheard, or unchosen, then this channel is for you. Here on Through Her Eyes, we tell the stories that often go unheard, the quiet battles, the brave choices, the healing we don't always talk about but desperately need. So if you're still here, maybe it's not by accident. Subscribe now to join a community that sees you, hears you, and stands with you. Your story matters, and you are never alone here.